Welcome, everyone. It's the Hunger Free Communities Network webinar. We'll get started in just a minute. As people are joining, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name, what organization you're with. If your coalition has a different name than your organization, please add that too. All right, we're going to get started in just a minute. We'll give people another minute or two to join us. I'm Minerva Delgado with the Alliance to End Hunger. And it's so nice to see those of you who are joining us today. Really appreciate you being with us. You can see the agenda on the screen. So we have today presentations from Hunger Free San Diego, who's going to be talking about their hey, Amanda, thanks for joining us. Their Hunger Free Navigator program, as well as Great Plains Food Bank, which is working on their End Hunger 2.0 initiative, as well as providing support to the Hunger Free North Dakota Coalition. And so they'll be talking about their work. Welcome, everyone. And after we hear from our presenters, we will be just talking about some announcements. We'll open the floor for announcements from you all. We know you're all doing great work in your communities. So any upcoming events you want to share, noteworthy accomplishments, or just anything you want the group to know, there'll be a moment for sharing any information from all of you. And then we'll have a few announcements from the Alliance to End Hunger. We have a date set for our Hunger Free Communities virtual summit later in the fall. Very excited about that. And hey, Amanda, welcome. And we'll be doing an overview of the Hunger Free Community Impact Framework process, just kind of having Amanda, who's working with us, share kind of where we are with that project. So thank you, everyone. I think it looks like we have enough people to go ahead and get started. So I will stop sharing my screen and turn the microphone over to, I'm sorry, I can't even see my agenda anymore. And I'll turn the agenda over to Nancy with Hunger Free San Diego, who's going to be talking about their Hunger Free Navigator program. Let me stop my share. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Minerva. And well, good morning, because I'm in San Diego, so it's 11 a.m. over here. Good morning, everyone. My Chief Program Officer, Amanda Schultz-Brochu, and I are excited to present our Hunger Free Navigator program with you all today. So Amanda's going to start us off with the presentation. So Amanda, would you like to start?
Sure. Thanks, Nancy. Good morning and good afternoon. We're really happy to be here with everyone. I'll just say personally, I've learned so much and continue to learn so much from all of the different hunger-free communities across the nation. And we're really grateful to be here and share a little bit about some of the work that we're doing in San Diego. So yeah, we'll start it off. So just wanted to share a little bit about the Hunger Coalition. So Hunger Free San Diego is facilitated by the San Diego Hunger Coalition, which is our goal is to lead coordinated action to end hunger through research, education, and advocacy. And we really see ourselves as a backbone organization. And so we primarily work on federal nutrition assistance programs and do that work through the facilitation of a variety of tables and task forces where we bring different nonprofit organizations and community residents together to really think about different pieces of the food assistance system and how we can make meaningful change. So when we're thinking about Hunger Free San Diego, I think maybe in the last slide you saw one of the tables that we facilitate is the Hunger Free San Diego Advisory Board, and our work in bringing that board together and facilitating Hunger Free San Diego with their guidance really started about 7 years ago, and since that time we've collectively created a vision that a Hunger Free San Diego is one where anyone experiencing nutrition insecurity can readily access adequate, equitable, and appropriate food assistance to see them through their time of need. And so while all of our organizations are independently working upstream to address the determinants that are leading people to be in a position where they need food assistance resources, we want to make sure that that safety net is strong and available and accessible for any time anyone needs to access it. I'm just realizing one thing I didn't note on the last slide, which is fine, is just wanted to say we have about 25 different community-based organizations that are advisory board partners with us in this work. So when we first came together, one of the first things we did was really start to think about how do we wrap our heads around what nutrition insecurity looks like in San Diego County. So we wanted to provide just a little bit of context for today's conversation around the Navigator program, and some of the work that we're doing is really guided by the fact that about 1 in 3 San Diegans are currently experiencing nutrition insecurity. And so when we break that information down more in more detail, we're looking at about 40% of children in San Diego and 30% of older adults are experiencing some form of nutrition insecurity. And I know that's usually not the first thing that comes to people's mind when they think about a large affluent city like San Diego, but particularly as a result of COVID and some of the income inequalities that are present in San Diego, along with other large cities that have high cost of living, there's a really significant portion of our community that's struggling with accessing healthy food. Oh yeah, great. I just saw a question in the chat about the cost per meal and the 1.84 pounds. So we would be happy to send out, I'll put a link in the chat, or maybe Annalise can help us. We have our Hunger Free San Diego coordinator that's with us today as well. So huge shout out to Annalise, but we can put our nutrition and security brief in the chat that we put together kind of a standard as a part of the advisory board. We developed standard metrics locally around the cost and pounds of food that go into a meal so that we could create a standard measurement across all forms of food assistance and really get a better sense of how much food is coming in and what our resulting gap is. So yeah, we'd be happy to share more information or continue that conversation at a later time. Thanks, Annalise.
Amanda, this is Minerva. I just have a question, because I think some of the groups are really asking themselves, like, what is the benefit of having a common metric? Like, how would that advance our work? Can you just speak a little bit about why you all think that's important and how you feel it's benefited your work?
Sure, absolutely. So, looking at the map in front of us, we've been able to work with, look at the need and kind of map out the need of nutrition insecurity across San Diego County. And so after we mapped that kind of preliminary baseline, the next question we ask ourselves is, well, okay, how much food assistance is coming into our region, and what kind of impact is that food assistance having on addressing the need that's present? And so, as everyone is probably aware, there's so many different forms of food assistance that are coming in. And so when we were thinking about how to weigh the impact of all these different forms of food assistance, it became really important to us, or it just became important to be able to develop some sort of a standard metric that allows us to kind of compare apples to oranges with different forms of food assistance, whether it be financial supports through the SNAP or WIC program, or food that's distributed through a pantry or pop-up market. or an actual meal that's provided by after school supper or a senior congregate meal site. So really trying to start, we had lots of really fantastic conversations around how much a meal costs, looking at USDA food plans. And then we really used the USDA food plans and settled on the moderate food plan, thinking about the cost of living in San Diego, and had some really deep conversations that helped us kind of get a baseline. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, so we, just again, providing a little more context for the importance of building out a navigator program. You can see in the map here, just that, and there's pretty significant kind of pockets of, and maybe even not pockets, just there's, really significant nutrition insecurity experienced across San Diego County. And the scale is pretty large here, so it doesn't necessarily account for the dispersed population in our rural areas in the eastern part of the county, but just wanted to acknowledge that even in those areas further east that might not be appearing as hot zones, there's really significant food insecurity. It's just that people are more dispersed and isolated. So, we, in thinking about the Navigator program, we really was created around the height of the pandemic and started as a way to share critical information through existing networks. So we all know that information was changing rapidly during COVID, and we were looking for ways to get that information out quickly through trusted messengers. And we know that those trusted messengers are family, friends, and community-based organizations. And the other thing that really supported this project's launch was that, especially during COVID more than ever before, people wanted to help. They wanted to engage and connect with each other and support one another. And so we were able to really find opportunities to provide resources to help one another. I think, Nancy, is this where I turn it over? Oh, one more. Okay, thank you. So ultimately, the goal of the Navigator program is to make it easier for people to learn about, access, and connect people to food assistance resources in their community. And I think, just an easy way to conceptualize that is, if either understanding that all the forms of food assistance that are out there can be really complex and confusing to navigate, we wanted to create some sort of resource, and we ended up landing on a training with supplementary materials that would allow me to have a 90-second conversation with my neighbor. If they came to me and just expressed that they were having a hard time getting enough food, or were really struggling with the increasing costs of food, that I would be in a position to be able to say, wow, that's really tough. Did you know about these programs? And there's some really easy ways to connect with them. And so that's how the Navigator program was born. So our long-term vision is to have a countywide network of navigators that are both integrated into social service agencies, but also present throughout the general public. And, again, we want to be equipping these individuals with the knowledge and the confidence to connect people to food assistance. And ultimately, long term, I don't know if we'll have time to get into this, but we see the opportunity for engaging navigators and strengthening food assistance programs through advocacy. And so as people have a better understanding of the intricacies of food assistance landscapes and some of the challenges and barriers, there could be opportunities to work with people to redesign and strengthen those systems. Okay, now I'll turn it over for sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Amanda. So I will be able to provide just an overview of what this program looks like. And so as we started to develop this new Hunger-Free Navigator program, we operationalized our intention to lead a community-driven process, which means we wanted to bring all the stakeholders to the table. including the nutrition security providers, organizations like the businesses, nonprofits, and government agencies, and including the community residents, especially those who have experience when it comes to nutrition insecurity. So bringing them all to this conversation of what kind of information should we start developing and sharing across the county. So we worked very closely with two of these stakeholders. We started, we wanted to make sure that there was a shared understanding, as Amanda mentioned, as part of our vision is making sure that this information is shared amongst all of San Diego County partners, and making sure that it's the consistent and accurate, up-to-date information on these food assistant resources. So the way we went about it is really engaging our nutrition security providers who are providing these services on the ground to help create this content, and they helped us review the messages that we have drafted. So we've worked closely with the food bank partners and our county partners that provide delivery services. And they continue to work with us to provide regular updates, especially during the pandemic when so many changes to these programs continue to happen. They are able to share the most up-to-date information and resources as we continue to present our navigator trainings. And then on the other side, just equally important was engaging our community residents. And we did this through the development of a Hunger-Free Community Advisory Council, or what we call the CAC. And our CAC is currently composed of staff and community leader representation supported by 3 trusted community-based organizations. So our council initially met weekly over the span of 4 months in early 2021 to discuss and learn from each other and inform the development of the Hunger-Free Navigator program. So it's been such a great learning experience and a pleasure working with both groups. As we continue to receive input from both of these groups as we continue to develop our program. So what does it look like? The cornerstone of our Hunger-Free Navigator program is a 90-minute training. It provides a comprehensive understanding of the different food assistant resources that are available here in our San Diego County. So we include an overview of each of these resources, including eligibility criteria and the best starting points for each of these resources here locally. We review CalFresh or SNAP. We go into school meals and PEBT, WIC, meals for older adults, and then food distributions as well. And we also include additional important points such as public charge and addressing some common misconceptions that we continue to hear around using these services. So our Hunger-Free Navigator training is free. It's open to anyone who is interested in learning about these resources. And we provide a live presentation every month, which allows us to engage with our community partners and hear what kind of questions are out there in the community. As part of their efforts and participation in our training, our attendees receive a certificate of completion and they receive recognition as Hunger-Free Navigators in this countywide network. In addition to the training component, we equip our Hunger-Free Navigators with additional tools, including those ongoing communications through quarterly newsletter updates. As I mentioned with COVID and just different changes now that services are resuming back to traditional ways of operating, letting our partners know what's on the horizon with each of these resources. We also have developed food assistant resources, flyers in the form of just a printed one-pager that partners can print out and share. And we've been able to translate this into 12 different languages, and we update them every quarter, recognizing that San Diego is very diverse and has a lot of different communities. Additionally, we've also helped develop, with the help of our CAC, we've been able to develop some short videos and social media graphics, tailoring some messages in Spanish and English about each of these food assistant resources. So with all of that, we also provide technical assistance or ongoing support through technical assistance and tailored trainings. So our team members with CalFresh and school meals our Hunger Free Kids program. We continue to support any partners that are interested in taking it a bit further after this training, after attending this training. So sharing a little bit about how we started after we've kind of developed the content and knew what we wanted to share with our partners. Looking at our engagement efforts, we initiated them with piloting a training presentation with some close partners and then opening it up to existing networks, promoting this training and the tools that come with it, making it available to them. And we continue to host this live presentation every month. Some months we've hosted as many as 4 trainings. And what we've done is we offer the trainings through different days of the weeks and different times to help with someone's scheduling. So for example, we had a pantry partner who was not able to attend Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is when they had their pantry days. So they were able to join us at our following training that we held on a Wednesday. Attending some collaborative tables have helped us expand our reach with partners who may not necessarily be working closely with hunger relief efforts. And so we've been able to share our resources and even coordinate like condensed training presentations at these network meetings, which has allowed other partners to learn about this Hunger Free Navigator and schedule something for their own staff at a staff meeting or a department with a tailored presentation that's specific to the populations that they serve. So since launching our Hunger Free Navigator, we just completed our first year, and since then we've trained over 800 individuals, mainly consisting of resource specialists or case managers and patient navigators, which is the audience we originally started to promote this tool to. And we've been able to connect with over 265 organizations across San Diego County. But what started off as just case management roles, we've really expanded it to anyone who's interested in learning about these food assistant resources and how they can help connect someone who's facing food insecurity to these resources. Because just the content has been really easy to understand, we've been able to only slightly tweak the content or really adapt it for any audience at this point. So we're excited that our preliminary findings show that participating in our Hunger Free Navigator training has significantly increased participants' knowledge of these food assistant resources. We've also been able to see that it increases their confidence and ability to connect people to these resources. So as Amanda mentioned, the goal was to be able to provide enough knowledge or content to be able to connect someone whenever they are having a conversation around nutrition insecurity. And what we have found to be the most significant result is that since taking the training, 67% of our survey respondents of Hunger Free Navigators have reported that they've started to refer people to additional food assistant resources. So many are seeking us out after the training to learn more or to set up referral systems, and others with just the knowledge or the food assistant flyers, they're able to connect someone as they continue to do their own regular kind of work. So these 2 examples here at the bottom are just examples of someone who works at a counseling center or a community-based organization, and they're just able to connect someone when they see someone in need. So as I mentioned, our content has been well received in the sense that it's been easy to understand. So we've been able to expand our training and our technical assistance to different partners, including the network of promotores and community health workers here in the county. So we've received a lot of interest from these groups to better understand the resources and even take a deeper dive than what we present at our Navigator trainings. We really only cover the tip of the iceberg during our monthly presentations. And so some of these groups have wanted to better understand a program such as CalFresh to be able to have more in-depth conversations with the communities that they serve. So we're able to continue building on on what the navigator kind of offers at the beginning and build it further with the rest of our team members and our experts. So I don't know if we have enough time, but maybe I can share this in our slide deck, or I think we also have the video shared on our website somewhere. But, you know, this was a video with one of our community advisory councils on just how her experience was working and developing the Hunger Free Navigator program and why she feels it's important to share with everyone. So let's see. Okay. So in terms of just lessons learned as we developed our training, I think one of the biggest challenges is the constant changes in some of these resources. So, you know, maintaining these resources, especially the print materials with up-to-date information, has been a challenge, but we have learned from our partners that the one-pagers have been really useful. And so just still learning how to figure out to share these resources without having them become so outdated so easily and quickly. And then with our conversations, we know that public charge continues to have that chilling effect, where it really has discouraged many individuals from accessing these resources. So the misconceptions that are still out there with our communities, it kind of ties into why we're continuing to provide this Hunger Free Navigator training, really addressing some of these resources. And then with the pandemic, we've been able to provide these monthly trainings over Zoom, which has been great, but also recognizing that not everyone has access to the technology. And so it's our hope that, you know, we're able to provide in-person presentations or really set up these Hunger Free Navigators to be able to disseminate this information as they do their in-person outreach. So this is more of a long-term kind of goal. And then I know we're running on the clock here. So with this last slide, we wanted to share some best practices here. You know, this work is very long-term, and it's certainly a collaborative effort. We really have been very grateful to have partners who are willing to share their resources and information for us to create this content and to continue providing their updates, and then having the community residents as well share their input so we can continue providing the appropriate messages, the messages that will really reach and encourage people changing their minds to be able to feel confident and comfortable to apply to the services that they are entitled to. So recognizing that these CVOs really are the trusted sources, and we can just kind of help with the tools that we create. And then, of course, in creating the different tools, making sure that they are accessible in many different ways. So as I mentioned, Zoom has been great. We've been able to provide translated interpretation services so that we're able to have great conversations with a variety of community residents, but also creating those one-pagers and printed materials after the feedback from our community residents, and then reaching the rural communities as well. We're learning what printed materials are useful. So all this continuous feedback and evaluation through our conversations and also our quick questionnaires right after a training have been helpful in helping us see where do we need to kind of develop our content, where can we keep building, or what's going well as part of what we've already been offering. And so, you know, if anyone is interested, we'd be happy to share more about our Hunger Free Navigator program and the road that we've had so far. Amanda, I don't know if you have any closing remarks, but we're really excited that it's within the first year, you know, it's been so well received because it has been a much needed resource, I think, these past couple of years. So we're very excited about the next steps that we'll have this year.
Nancy, thank you for sharing that wonderful information, and Amanda as well. Amanda, did you have any comments? I will ask folks to just raise their hands or put a question in the Q&A, and we're happy to take those now. Also, I will anticipate a question and ask Nancy to send me this PowerPoint so that we can share it out so that you all have it in the follow-up email. So we'll make sure you get that as well. I'm not seeing any questions now. We'll just kind of, but please feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to unmute you if you want to ask a question. I think, it's wonderful to see these kinds of resources and how well received they are. I know that, it can be so confusing for community residents. I'm curious, I know you said that, having community residents sort of become navigators has been an important part of the success here. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and what you feel that they've kind of brought to the table?
Yeah, so where to start? I mean, they have been a part of the conversations from the beginning with the content development. We were able to, well, Amanda, would you like to share about the stipends that we were able to provide in order to, it was pretty time intensive. So we wanted to compensate them for the time and their expertise.
Sure, yeah. So we tried to take a really intentional approach in building out this new program. And so we started with, we had preliminary conversations, and Nancy reached out to all the hunger relief service providers across San Diego County and just talking about how to streamline messaging. But then before we got much further, we developed a community advisory council. And so we found it particularly helpful since we're such a small organization with pretty limited capacity. The approach we took is we reached out to grassroots community-based organizations that have community resident programs, and so worked with them. So we provided the community-based organization a small administrative grant, and then for the coordination, recruitment, and ongoing involvement with community residents. And then each of those three organizations recruited 2 to 3 community residents. I think generally most people that came to the table had lived experience with nutrition insecurity or were closely connected with people who have had those experiences. And the program was a 4-month, so about between 15 and 20-week program. We provided stipends that equated to about $21 an hour for community resident engagement, both in meetings and then anticipated efforts outside of those meetings. So a part of our time together was doing a community needs assessment on nutrition insecurity that informed some of the ways that we built out the content and curriculum and some of the messaging that's on our resource page. And then we had a lot of conversations like longer term, just thinking about how can we build a program that supports people in engaging more deeply on these issues and kind of understanding the barriers to engaging on advocacy long term. And so that's really informed. I think at this point we're at a process of trying to figure out how is there an opportunity to combine the Community Advisory Council with our Hunger Free San Diego Advisory Board that's been around a little bit longer, and still kind of thinking about what that could look like. But yeah, we're really, really grateful to have those conversations and still stay in touch. I think Nancy gets text messages from Doña Tamu and some of the promotoras in the program up in the northern part of the county that we worked with.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So let's switch gears since I don't see any questions. Thank Amanda and Nancy so much for this work and for sharing it with us. And we'll now turn to Taylor with Great Plains Food Bank, who's going to be talking about their work with their Ending Hunger 2.0 initiative, as well as their support of the Hunger Free North Dakota Coalition. So Taylor, I see your PowerPoint is up, so you can take it away. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for the time and the space and the opportunity to really build some collective awareness around what's happening across the nation and pockets and communities all over the place. So thank you too to Nancy and Amanda. I have a whole list of notes I took and insights I gained from your work, and excited to dig into some of those resources you shared in the chat. So great to share the space with you. I am going to take on and off a few of the different hats that I wear and a few of the different groups that I am representing in this space today. So I've shared some of the logos of those different groups: the Great Plains Food Bank, Ending Hunger 2.0, the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition, and the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition. And I'm going to dig into sort of what community coalition work has looked like over the past decade or so in our state and our region, and talk a little bit about how each of these sort of networks and ways of working have interacted with one another, supported one another, or had the opportunity to be a springboard for additional work. Fortunately, I have this hideous, very old picture to share with you of myself. So I'm going to move past this very, very quickly. But I wanted to highlight that Nancy Careview, our coalition coordinator, is unable to be with us today. She is unwell, and wanted to send her her well wishes and self-introduction. And I will also share her contact information, but you get to hear from me today, and I serve as the Director of Ending Hunger 2.0 at the Great Plains Food Bank. You saw on that first slide that there are a couple of groups I'm going to be talking about today, and on the next slide, I'm going to talk about how each of those groups sort of interact. But I want to start with sort of the maybe the lowest or the highest kind of umbrella, and that is the Great Plains Food Bank. That is the organization that I work for, and we've been around for almost 4 decades. The Great Plains Food Bank serves every county in the state of North Dakota and 1 county in Minnesota, Clay County, which you'll get to hear a lot about today. And really, for a very long time, our food bank did very traditional food banking work, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Food in, food out, really that sort of traditional charitable feeding network that you might think of. We are a partner, a member of Feeding America. And about, let's see, what year is it? 7 or so years ago, we had this really introspective opportunity to say, ask ourselves, are we satisfying our mission of ending hunger? The answer was no. All we were doing was really putting a Band-Aid on folks' needs, giving them food today, which is absolutely meeting a basic human need, but had really stopped short of looking beyond that immediate solution. And so as an organization, we had an opportunity to say, how do we influence and interact with the root causes of hunger? What is the work we do with collaborative partners outside of our walls, outside of food security providers, that helps bring people to economic sustainability? And so really that's where the idea of Ending Hunger 2.0 was born out of. That effort, that initiative, is really centered on uncovering and addressing the root causes of hunger through research, advocacy, and community-based solutions. Here I'm showing sort of our 3 bold goals. What is bringing us into the future of ending hunger and what it looks like to do that immediate food assistance work. Also, what does it look like to really work very closely with the folks we are serving, our neighbors? And then how do we build a sustainable and systemically driven future where organizations outside of charitable feeding are involved in food security and nutrition security? I want to share that really the Great Plains Food Bank, when we think about collective impact, the food bank is the backbone agency for our coalition work and for a lot of health equity driven work that we are involved in. I mentioned that Ending Hunger 2.0 is an initiative of the Great Plains Food Bank. So that's where a lot of the backbone activities live in the department that I work in, that I oversee. And over the years, we've had the opportunity to either be involved in or directly facilitating coalition work in our region. Really, that started, let's see, about 12 years ago. Great Plains Food Bank feeding partners, soup kitchens, shelters, and pantries came together in our 2-county region, Cass and Clay counties, border North Dakota and Minnesota, or hover the border of North Dakota and Minnesota. Fargo is in Cass County. Those of you who may know some North Dakota geography or have seen the movie or are just fans of the city of Fargo like I am, that is situated in Cass County. Moorhead, the sort of twin city to Fargo, is situated in Clay County. And this is one of the largest metro areas in the state of North Dakota and outside, of course, of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition really started as a convening of partner agencies of the food bank to come together and talk about what was and wasn't working, really an opportunity to network and commiserate. That coalition fizzled because there wasn't a whole lot of strategy or leadership in identifying what this group of people was doing together. This coalition has been reimagined, re-energized, and reestablished in a totally new form and shares only the name Cass Clay Hunger Coalition. And we'll spend a whole lot of time here talking through what that looks like today and what it's looked like to sort of get to today. At about the same time, 12 years ago, we were involved in establishing the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition, which is the statewide hunger coalition. And that coalition has changed shape over the past 4 months. Time feels so fluid these days. I often check the date in the calendar. But over the past few months, we've had the opportunity to become more deeply engaged with this coalition. And I want to share a little bit about what the future of our statewide coalition looks like. And as coalition work overall and our role as a backbone agency becomes more and more established, we hope that new regional coalitions like the Cass Clay Regional Hunger Coalition might bubble up or have the opportunity to sort of spin off from some of the work that's already existing. So with all of that, I'd love to start with the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition. You heard that it's been in existence for a great long while, but really the summer of 2018, we had folks come together across the community outside of the charitable feeding network who were really interested in identifying what we can do together across our industries to build food security in our region. I should mention that Cass and Clay County, it's about a 215,000 population community, highly urban and highly rural. And so there are some unique needs for the folks who live in this area. As these conversations came about, we had the opportunity to host the very first Hunger and Health Summit by the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition, or soon to be new Cass Clay Hunger Coalition. And that was really an opportunity to do some level setting, bring people together on values and messaging and data and purpose. And from there, the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition relaunched in its new form as of January 2019. And I had the great pleasure of serving as the chair of the Hunger Coalition from January 2019 through January of 2022. And all along the way, we really relied on learning from some of the lessons that we had highlighted that made the previous version of the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition unsuccessful or perhaps unsustainable. And one of the core beliefs that this group had come together on was the idea that we really needed a strategic direction and some kind of strategic priorities to keep everyone accountable, so that when we came to that space, we were setting aside our personal or organizational agendas. We were really working on the agenda of the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition Collective. Over the last few years, like lots of groups, and like Nancy and Amanda mentioned, we've had the opportunity to move some of our work virtually. We've been able to maintain some in-person work. We have hosted an annual Hunger and Health Summit over the past few years, or annually since 2018, and have now moved through some project-based work closer and closer to sort of a formal governance and policy creation and implementation, with the new hiring of a full-time staff coordinator, which I will pick back up in just a moment. I mentioned our really the core part of our coalition's success so far is the use of results-based accountability, or RBA, to really drive our strategy. I'm not sure how many folks here have used or seen or know about RBA, but it has been a really helpful tool that centers data to make decisions about why we may take this bite-sized step towards our end vision. And I'm not going to get into all the details of RBA because it's a really complicated thing to learn about, but it has been a tool that our coalition leadership has taken time to be well resourced and educated on, and those folks have really served as the voices of RBA throughout our work. I will say that RBA starts with this end goal, or this vision of what we want our community to look like, and then works backwards, building strategies that are really focused on that end vision, keeping that in mind throughout. So when we did this process back in May of 2019, we identified 4 core principles, food or guiding principles rather: food insecurity, food access, the intersection of hunger and health, and building community-wide awareness and engagement. In each of these sections, I've taken these from a few different materials here. Each of these sections highlights sort of that end goal, that vision for our community, and then one of the steps that we're taking to get closer to that end goal. And so our cross-collaborative groups are able to really have a hyper-focused direction on what it is that's going to take us closer, one bite-sized step closer to that end goal. I think it can be really challenging for groups who are not deeply ingrained in food security, food access, nutritional security, or policy-driven work to even think about where to start. And so this approach for us has been really helpful in breaking down, again, what is that one bite-sized step closer to that vision? I said we'd come back to this sort of timeline here, this history of where the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition has been and where we're going. And I'd love to just sort of highlight where we are right now, which is early 2022. Through the support of the North Dakota Department of Health and the Great Plains Food Bank, we've been able to hire a full-time staff person. Prior to this, all of the work had been volunteer run or fell under my work at the food bank. And this has really allowed us to take the next step in sustainability of these efforts and sustainability of our coalition's work. Over the past few months, we've been engaged in some governance policy creation and are moving closer to implementing those policies. this is where I would typically have handed it over to Nancy, our new coalition coordinator. But without her here, I will make the less than graceful transition to let you know that this is where the Hunger Coalition is today. Our membership includes over 40 local organizations. I've listed them here because this is exciting to me. It's exciting to see that these need to be in a size 10 font to be able to fill up this or to show them all on this page. And you'll see that they absolutely include traditional charitable feeding partners like the Emergency Food Pantry or Faith for Hope Food Pantry, but they also include public health, school nutrition services, extension, let's see here, funders like United Way of Cass Clay, Services for Older Adults, and a whole host of other really aligned organizations who are focused on building food security. These groups, this is our current membership. I mentioned that back in 2018 when we were reimagining what the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition could look like, we really started with 0. So this has been the growth since January of 2019. So right now, the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition is really driven by our vision. We see a healthy community built on collaborative solutions that supports equitable access to food while addressing the root causes of hunger. Even coming to this vision has been a collaborative process, and that is really at the core of our coalition success. Right now, we have an advisory board that is led by the individuals you'll see on the screen, a food pantry partner, public health from each of the counties, a funder foundation that spans both counties, and then family wellness, which is a health and wellness CBO. We have all of those coalition members representing their organizations across the 2-county area. And then Nancy, who is staffed by the Great Plains Food Bank, supporting the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition. And this is a collaborative decision-making process. This is not the Nancy show or the advisory board show. The decisions are come to and vetted through the collective work of the coalition members. I know I'm running short on time and I want to get to some other great stuff, but I'd love to highlight some of the successes our coalition has seen along the way. We have implemented a number of new projects new to our community. We have piloted successfully a school lunch repack. That's a fancy name that refers to the excess food during school meals gets repackaged and then distributed through, actually deep frozen and then distributed through school-based pantries. And we worked through the coalition to bring these partners together and build capacity for them to be able to distribute these meals. We also, this collaboration has led to new food distribution programs that are either place-based or meeting the need of a specific population. And then we found ways to better connect all of the resources that are available in our community, food and more, through the use of a closed loop referral platform powered by Aunt Bertha called Resourceful. I would love to spend a whole lot of time talking about some of the sort of community successes we've seen beyond the project-based work. I mentioned that we do host an annual Hunger and Health Summit. We typically have folks from around North Dakota and Minnesota in attendance. And this has been a great way for the community to learn about our work and for us to sort of stay accountable to our guiding principles. We also meet monthly. We have a meeting on the first Tuesday of every month, and sort of the core outcomes of that meeting are really thinking about how we can work more collaboratively to lean into some resource efficiency and build some shared language, shared metrics across our groups. So that's all I'm going to share on the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition. I'd love to take just a couple minutes talking about the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition. The Great Plains Food Bank recently became the facilitating organization of the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition. It had been previously facilitated by a North Dakota-based consultant who's a hunger relief advocate since 2010 and funded through the North Dakota Department of Health, and has real statewide member organizations ranging from North Dakota State Government Services and Departments, SNAP Education, Community Action, really those statewide groups, and has had the priority of advocacy that has really risen to the top in terms of the activities of this coalition. These are the sort of core principles of the Creating a Hunger-Free North Dakota Coalition and where you can find us on the internet. And I'll say that after 12 years, we are taking some time during this transition to really understand and learn from the success of the Cass Clay Hunger Coalition and how we can build sustainability into the statewide coalition. So more to come. We don't know what this is going to look like yet, and we hope that we can really build from the successes of the previous facilitator and perhaps identify ways to collaborate with other social needs coalitions in the state. And finally, in wrapping up, I wanted to share with you sort of the beauty of the North Dakota landscape. It is not this beautiful right now. March is usually a very gray and dusty month for us as the snow melts, but thinking about what's on the horizon for these coalitions, the sunflower is such an incredible emblem of constancy. It has deep roots in the land, deep roots in the community, and we hope that these coalitions are deeply community driven. And as we continue to look to the future, hearing from our community members to drive our strategy and direction will be at the core of our work. With that, I would love to have a deeper conversation with you about what coalition work looks like in the state of North Dakota and beyond. And myself or Nancy would be happy to share any more information we can or answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And yes, please send me these slides. I know people want them. And certainly getting some kudos in the chat for your inspiring work. Really appreciate that. We only have 2 minutes, so I will ask anyone with announcements to just drop those in the chat. And Amanda, can you take 1 minute and just kind of give everybody an update on where we are with our Hunger-Free Communities Framework refresh?
Hi there, everyone. It was so great to hear from Taylor and Nancy and the other Amanda about fantastic work that you're doing in community. We are gearing up, and I know we spoke to a few of you at the last quarterly meeting, to embark on a kind of interesting project. So they kind of did the work for me, talking about the power of collective impact. They also mentioned resources. So I want you to think about the last time you used a toolkit, a case study, went to a setting like this to hear someone else's story, to learn how to collaborate better, to learn what tools work to make all of these changes happen in your communities. These are messy processes, and there are a ton of toolkits and rich resources. So how do you navigate that space? We're going to be sending some things around to you all, invitations for focus groups, invitations to participate in case studies, as well as some information that marries some of the practical literature and experiences we've seen with some of the scholarly work that people are doing around collective impact. And the point of all of this, and Minerva, I'm so sorry, I think I'm over a minute. The point of all of this is to give you resources that really work for you, to end with a framework and case studies and storytelling in a form that really meets you where you're that and makes your job a little bit easier. So you'll hear more from us in email land because I'm out of time, but just know we really appreciate your time. You'll see about some incentives for working with us. But now you have a face to the name. So when you see those emails, please reply. We really appreciate your time. And again, it's all to make things better for you. So I look forward to staying in touch and seeing you all soon.
Thank you, Amanda. And Amanda is working with us from Syracuse University. We really appreciate having her work with us on our project. And so finally, just an announcement, we have set the dates for our virtual 2022 Hunger Free Communities Network Conference coming on November 2nd and 3rd. You will hear lots more, but please start thinking about any presentations you'd want to make or any ideas you have for us about content or structure of the conference. You know, we're always looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We will follow up with an email with the resources you saw today, as well as more information. Thank you everyone and have a good day.